Welcome to Driving Cultural Relevance with Dr. Akumbo, bringing you cultural relevant multifaceted conversations and reflections intersecting education, entertainment, and business, committed to DEIB and cultural capacity building. I am Dr. Ruth Bitemamo Akumbo, and today I will reflect on the cultural relevance of the Woman King, starring Viola Davis. Make sure you listen to the end and share your reflections. You can also listen to the episode, My Cousins in America and Across the Globe. I believe that healing our past wounds start with us. Where do I start with the Woman King? Where do I start? I got to the theater an hour early. I was standing there just waiting, twirling my thumb, looking at my phone, doing whatever it takes to get the time moving. And somebody walked up to me and they said, "Don't wait too long." And I looked at them a bit confused. "What do you mean, don't wait too long?" And they said to me, "Are you being stood up?" I said, "No, I just came too early, and there was a group that had mentioned they will be here today, and I wanted to be here when I knew like-minded people, group of people that I knew were in the industry. Some of them were in the industry, and some of them were highly educated, and I wanted to knowledgeable in filmmaking, and I wanted to sit at the Crenshaw Theater with this crowd and experience what they were experiencing while watching this movie and experiencing this movie with them. I love watching Black movies at the Crenshaw Theater, the Cinemax, and I highly recommend it. I highly recommend it. It's an experience that everybody must have at least once. Watch an all-Black movie at that theater. Your experience is going to be different from any other theater you've watched a movie in, a Black movie in. That said, I waited an hour and I finally went into the movies and I sat down. The crowd came in. It felt like a party. When the crowd came in, people were just talking and socializing and spilling their popcorn, and it was a group of it was a community. It was a community getting together. It was just people making conversations and someone cracking jokes in the background when they see movies that were not culturally relevant. Let's put it that way, not culturally relevant. So it was just the experience I was looking for. It was loud, it was noisy. When the movie started, there was clapping and people talking between some scenes in the movie and laughing, and nobody was offended. Nobody was offended. The only time somebody hushed somebody was in the front, where one of the kids was just getting a little bit too noisy. It feels like there is a timing where you could speak and talk in a movie, and it doesn't bother anybody at that theater. And that was not the timing. So that kid got shushed. Now, the cultural relevance of the Black Panther movie. As I sat in the theater as a Black woman that lived almost over half of my life in Africa or Cameroon, I wanted to just look at the things that I could relate to growing up. How was this story hitting me emotionally, culturally? And I have to say that I left the theater and I didn't want to speak to anybody. I did not want to speak to anybody. I just walked to my car, drove quietly. Sometimes I would have Afrobeats playing when I drive, but I just drove quietly, or in just that surreal, somber, deep thought moment where you can't even put into context or into words what you're feeling. My emotions were just so deep and intense that all I needed to do was get home and get into bed and get into bed and just think and think. I could not have recorded this yesterday. My emotions just, I had nothing to give. I had nothing to give. So this morning, my thoughts are more settled in, and two things really stood out to me before I get to some of the cultural elements that I picked up in the movie, which I know there's plenty, but I want to just touch on a few. And I want to see this movie again, because the more I see it, the more things I'm gonna be able to pick that are cultural relevant. And the movie is very cultural relevant, to say the least, and historically, and I don't really know what is fiction because I haven't read the book. I haven't done research on the story itself, but I have concluded that the movie is relevant, is cultural relevant. The two things, as I was saying, that really I felt a different reaction from the room was this one of the scenes, without giving away much, without I'm not going to name names, or I'm going to try really hard to say what I'm saying without giving away anything if possible. So there was one scene where regularly an African mother would not accept that behavior, and I could feel it in the room. I could feel the commentaries. I could hear the commentaries in the room, and you could tell that people were expecting a different reaction, and they didn't get it. They were mad, but you could hear from the comments that this is not gonna flow. this you can get away with this. But I think I also understand why the writers played that scene like that, wrote the scene like that. It is a fine balance sometimes when you want to write a movie. I do feel like somehow they were trying to change a culture. One of the things for me being that Africans, we do not usually look at our elders in the eye, especially if they are almost mad at us, right? I haven't met an African culture yet, or cultural group yet, that things that defiant look at an elder is it's appropriate. But we know that culture is constantly changing, and people are adapting. So I can understand that this is something that is maybe a culture that is being imported and transferred, and the African storytellers are adopting it, and understanding that the writers and the actors are not all Africans. So, so there's going to be transfer of culture, adoption of culture, using my top model here, the transfer and adoption of universal principles. And just that, to me, was a universal principle that, or a more Western principle that was being transferred here. So there's another scene in the movie that the reaction from the crowd was so telling. And when that scene was playing, no one could speak. Nobody spoke in a theater where people speak their opinions freely. They share what they're feeling throughout the movie, or not throughout the movie, most of the movie, in different scenes in the movie. It said so much that nobody said a word during that scene. It felt like we did not know where the scene was going. And once we understood where the scene was going, it felt like a healing moment. And nobody said anything. We just all sat there and took in the scene. We just let it wash over us. And we just let that almost reconciliation happen. It was intense. It was intense, and a brilliant scene. Brilliant scene. Okay, those are the two scenes with two different reactions from the crowd that I really wanted to point out. Now let's look at the cultural elements that really stood out. Respect, talking back into anybody that is older than you is not a sign of respect. and as like I mentioned, the audience, you could tell the audience was like, huh, what are you doing? And why are you not reacting, or why are you not doing anything about this, or the way we expect you to do it? So that was interesting. You could tell that the woman king had high respect for this young ruler. You could tell from her behavior when she needed to make a decision that was quite important. You could tell that there was still a little bit of fear and mixed with reverence, but she knew what she needed to do. So you could tell her loyalty to the king. You could tell she has respect for the king. You could tell that even though the king, they seem to have a good relationship, there is still respect and loyalty. So another cultural element that stood out was the oral tradition. Storytelling is a big oral tradition. The movie, as you can tell, is narrated, and it's just beautifully narrated. And it really highlights that oral tradition. Beliefs, you could tell the different artifacts that they were wearing. You could tell that their beliefs tied to the props, some of the props on their body, the talisman, or what you might call jewelry. And there was this a priestess in the movie, and I don't want to get into the scenes and what happened and all of that, but their beliefs are highly you could see that the beliefs of the tribe of the Dharma people is highlighted in the movie. Music, oh, those women, the music and the dancing, it was just beautiful to see warriors in that space dancing and all of that. Oh, you have to see this movie. I cannot specify it enough. You have to see this movie. Dressing was appropriate to me. Dressing was sensible, as you will see in one of the scenes. Dressing was sensible. Tying the dressing, the movie, and the music, tying the dressing, the singing, the music, all now into what I want to say, what is an African woman? I know that the world is changing. I understand that culture is changing, but just recently with an incident that happened, should I say the Oscars, there has been a lot of conversation, or during that time period, there was a lot of conversation as in Black women can take care of themselves. Black women are strong. Black women don't need a man to stand up for them. I get the heart behind all of that. But for me, I believe that the fact that a woman is strong doesn't mean she doesn't need somebody to stand up for her, to have her back when other people are trying to tear her down. Just because a Black woman can handle her own doesn't mean that she doesn't need her friends, either men or women, or her man, to be there for her. It is a myth. We are also women with emotions. We are also women that need support. We are also women that have blind sides. We are also women that love it when a man can stand, or somebody we call our man can actually defend us. We can fight for ourselves. We can fight for ourselves, but support is also greatly appreciated, and it does our soul good. Maybe I'm talking just for me, and other Black women are like, yeah, no, girl, no, sister, no, or no, cousin. But that's just where I stand. I am a strong Black woman. There's no question about that. I am a strong Black woman, and I can tell you that as a strong Black woman, if I'm in a situation and a man supports me or stand up for me, I have more respect for that man than if they had just kicked back and said, oh, she's a strong Black woman, she can handle herself. I can handle myself if the situation calls for it, but it doesn't mean I don't need support. Okay, that's it. So Viola Davis in this movie, it just sold it for me. I don't think I've seen anything with her in it that I found to be almost flawless. Yes, the help was great. The help was great. But this movie, The Woman King, I wasn't quite sure. Like, to be frankly honest, to be completely honest, I wasn't sure how Viola Davis was gonna do in The Woman King. I almost was like, wait, don't we have other people that can do this? Nobody from the Black Panther movie? So, but no, there is no other woman right now in my book that could have done this any better. Viola Davis really sold this movie as a strong but vulnerable Black woman. Strong but vulnerable Black woman. She, she made me see a lot of African women that I grew up with. That woman that would be at the farm and a snake will be coming towards her child and she will grab her hold and pounce that thing in the head and kill it and pick it up and throw it in the fire someplace. Like, or that same woman that was, if the husband was around, will scream snake and pick up the child and run while the husband kills the snake. You've noticed the balance. The husband is around, she screams for her husband, and the husband kills the snake. The husband is not around, she grabs that hole and she smacks that thing in the head, and she takes care of her child, and she takes care of that evil that is coming towards her. What I actually enjoyed also was that even though she was a very strong and respectable woman within the men community and the women community and children community, she did not have any sign that she disrespected men or that she didn't think men were good enough. She didn't. She basically asserted the authority she's gained or the renown she's gained through her experience, through her work, through how she's been tested and proven. So to me, I think that for the first time, I have seen the African woman in her strength and in her weakness highlighted, and highlighted well. On that note, I will say thank you to the writers, thank you to the actors, thank you to all the makers of this movie, and I hope there will be more. I hope there will be more movies that really highlight our culture, our struggles, our differences, our dark history, and highlight the beauty that Africa has to offer. To conclude, please go back if you're a descendant of slavery and listen to the episode, My Cousins in America and Across the Globe. Please listen to that episode. I believe that healing our past wounds start with us. So let's keep doing the work. Let's keep doing what it takes to be the people that we were created to be, or to be the people that we are, even though society might not see our beauty, our strength, might not see our value or our worth. We should know our value and our worth. We should know our beauty and our strength. We should know who our ancestors were for the bad things they did, for the good things they did. And we should remember that, even if you don't listen to the episode, I want my African American friends and cousins and all my cousins that were highly impacted by slavery, both on the continent and outside the continent, to remember that you are valuable, you are strong, you come from a group of warriors, you survived, and you stayed true. You survived and you can still sing, you can still dance, you can still laugh. You survived. So you are warriors, and you will always be warriors. No matter what life throws at you, you will always be warriors. You come from descendants that, please know your history. It's just go to Africa, connect. I'm not saying it's a perfect continent. We on the continent were hurt by slavery, just as you were hurt by slavery. And I want to repeat that your forefathers that were taken away from the continent, somebody missed them, somebody cried for them, somebody mourned them. Somebody on the continent did. So never feel like you were never missed. You were missed, and you are being missed even today. The continent is not the same. because you were not there. So never let anybody make you feel like you are less than or nobody cared. A lot of people cared, and we still care. I am first generation, lived in the United States now for 20 years. I still cared what you went through. And I wonder what life would have been like if you had not left. But I appreciate what life is like because you left and because you didn't give up. You continue to fight as warriors and you never give up. So let's never give up. Let's never give up. Let's keep fighting to make the world a better place. Let's keep fighting to be the strong warriors that we are. Thank you.